For the last few months, ever since I got the S13, all I've been working on is getting that car ready to be on the road. We got the interior all completed, it looks absolutely amazing, and I was moving on to getting the suspension on the car when I hit a wall. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a few weeks now since I put out a video, but I will tell you, it is great to have the camera back in front of my face. I am feeling remotivated again. But I want to tell you guys a little bit of what's been going on behind the scenes. Anyone who's building a project car knows just how hard it is to try to line up parts and keep everything moving without any delays. Add in trying to film a video or two a week, and that process just becomes super stressful. So long story short, been working on the S13 tirelessly, was moving on to the next step, realized I needed a few things, had to get a few things powder coated, and there's just been some things that have caused delays that I couldn't have foreseen with this build. So don't be too hard on yourself. If you're building a car, shit happens and you just gotta roll with the punches. But the other part of this was that for the last couple weeks, and just to be completely transparent with you guys, I just really hadn't been feeling myself. I was feeling kind of down, demotivated, and just not the best version of myself. And it wasn't like there was any grand event in my life that caused me to feel down or was contributing to this. It was just one of those times where I wasn't feeling, my best. The second piece of that really is that I know that I wasn't doing everything in my power to make myself feel my best, from going to bed on time to meal prepping, making sure you have all these things done, or at least the things in my life that I found that ease my stress and make me more productive and make me be the best version of myself. So I bring this up, one, because I talk a lot about mental health, and I want you guys to know that it's okay to not be okay. We're all human, we've all got hardships, and especially what we see on social media and what we see online makes it seem like everything is all great all the time, and that's just not the case. So it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel all of those things, but if I encourage you to do one thing, it's make sure you're doing everything you can to feel your best self. Like when I look back at the last couple weeks, I know I wasn't doing that, and it just kind of sucks. And it only hurts me, and I guess you guys don't get a video, so that sucks. But I'm back. I'm super excited to be working on the S13 again. I mentioned earlier in the video that I have been doing a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, getting things ready. I've gotten a bunch of parts vapor honed, got all the zinc organized, tons of updates for you that have been happening behind the scene, so let's jump in. One of the pieces that I am most excited about finding in the last 2 weeks is a factory OEM hood. Now, I was really going back and forth on what I wanted to run on this car between an OEM factory hood and a Kikuchi power hood, but at the end of the day, I know myself too well. It had to be OEM. I wasn't gonna be happy with an aftermarket hood that maybe didn't fit well or required a bunch of work to make it fit well, and you just can't beat the OEM metal feeling and the look of it. So big shout out to the homie Nikolai, who was willing to sell this hood out of his personal stash. Wasn't really looking to sell it, but after striking out on trying to buy a couple on eBay that people just wanted ridiculous money for, Nikolai was willing to part ways with this because he knew it was going to a good cause. So I think this is officially the last piece of the exterior that I needed for this car before we can say it's complete. So I need to get this thing off to the body shop, get it painted, and make sure that it's ready for our debut in June. Now, one of the other things I've been working on behind the scenes is I got the subframes and the arms all dropped off a powder coat. If you watched the last video on the 240, you know I'm getting the subframes redone. They were powder coated in silver by the previous owner. So I pressed out the solid bushings that were in those, got new Nismo bushings to put in when we get the subframes back. Those are getting powder coated in black along with the knuckles. And then to get the arms closer, I did end up doing a little something. I couldn't help myself, but we thought that all we needed to do to those arms that seemed slightly off from the Nismo power brace was add a little bit of gloss to it. So they're adding a gloss to it and put them in the oven, and I think that should get them to be a perfect match for the car. So the next piece of this project that I was trying to tackle was getting the fuel system in. And behind the scenes, I was making sure I had all the hardware and everything that I needed. You can see I got this new fuel strap up here. Got a little bit of zinc hardware action, just kind of figuring out where everything goes. Now, the unfortunate part is there's a bracket that goes on the spare tire well that holds the strap that goes across this side of the tank. And I think what happened was when the previous owner sold the whole fuel system, he sold the tank, sold the straps and everything. And I bet you the bracket that was supposed to be there was attached to that strap. So I've been trying to track one down, found one locally. It's a little bit bent up. I'm gonna try to see if I can repair it, get it painted, and run with that. If not, I've got a few other options that I'm looking at. But just been working under here, figuring out where the zinc hardware goes. I'm telling you guys, it's gonna be so satisfying to see all the zinc in the car. Got a couple pieces up there, a couple pieces up there. And speaking of zinc, I went absolutely crazy getting this stuff organized into these Milwaukee pack outs, but you guys have seen all the zinc in the bags before. Just take a look at it now. So having everything organized will just help in the long run of finding the parts that I need much quicker, much more efficiently. Got a couple more cases down here with some of the larger items. And then over here, some non-suspension stuff. Got the new bushings. So these are a reinforced rubber bushing option from Nismo for the rear subframe. So this is what we're gonna be replacing the solid bushings that we're in there with. If I can get it open. So very similar style to what you see from the factory with the metal sleeve and rubber inside. So a little bit stronger than what you're gonna get from the factory. And this is a Nismo piece, like I said. So we're gonna press these in once we get the subframe back. And then we've got our power steering pump, all vapor honed and cleaned up. A bunch of engine pieces that have been vapor honed and individually plastic that we'll find homes for later. So just got everything nice and organized. Pulled out and unwrapped all of the powder coated bits. Like, it's just ridiculous, you guys. This literally all came with the car. And there's just gonna be surprises like this all the way through the build because there was so much done to this car previously, but gloss black powder coat on all this stuff. Obviously, this is the transmission brace, engine mounts. We've got our sway bars, various suspension pieces up here. These go for mounting the power steering rack to the subframe. Everything has been redone and is looking so good. Got some radium boxes over here and I have some explaining to do. So in one of the previous S13 videos, when I was showing off all the radium stuff that we're gonna be using for the fuel system on this car, I was showing you guys the plumbing kit, and the plumbing kit that I got comes with a rubber hose to run the fuel between the tank and the rails. Nothing wrong with the rubber hose. That's what most people use. But I asked you guys whether or not I should just use that or step up and do a full AN setup from the tank all the way to the rails. Really, I should have just known myself. Of course, we're gonna do a full AN line from the tank to the rails. So I got that stuff ordered last week. It arrived recently, so we've got full AN lines to run from the tank to the rails. I ordered one of Radium's 6AN and 8AN universal hose kits. So for the feed and the return lines, and we're gonna have full AN lines between our fuel system. It's gonna be beautiful. So 2 videos from now, we'll be getting the whole fuel system installed from the tank up. Obviously, we don't have the motor in, so we can't do anything with the rails yet, but we're gonna get our drop-in radium setup all done in the tank, get that all plumbed up. These are the beautiful billet pieces that hold the fuel lines underneath the car. It's gonna look so good on there. Got our fuel filter. This mounts in the OEM location. A couple new mounts I picked up from Nissan for the different lines that run across the firewall in the engine bay. Got new ones of those. Which brings me to this guy. I can't remember if I talked about the brake booster in previous videos. I feel like I must have, but the previous owner painted this to match the car and it's just not my style. So I'm definitely gonna have this be black. I've been going back and forth on a couple different options to get this done. There's places that rebuild brake boosters. To be completely honest, I don't know if these things require rebuilds all that often. Obviously, I've never driven this car, so I don't know if this particular one is having any sort of issues, but I want this to be black. I've heard a lot of great things about this trim black paint that comes in a spray can and is supposed to match the OEM finish like you would see on this. So before I go out and either send it out for a rebuild or have someone professionally paint it, I'm gonna scuff this, prime it, and try that trim black and see if it's something that I can live with. On this build, I'm being very particular, so if it's something that I just don't think meets the quality of the rest of the build, I'll have it done professionally, but we will try to do this ourselves here in the garage, see if it works, and I'll let you guys know if that's a viable solution. We got the proper intercooler from Drift HQ. This is a treadstone capable of 500 horsepower. This is gonna be perfect for the S13. I don't even think we're gonna ever see 500 horsepower in this car, and this is gonna fit nicely in behind the front bumper with very little to no modification. And this I am super excited about. So I've got a set of aluminum Z32 calipers, front and rear. These are the larger 30 mil size, and these were in super good shape to begin with. Now, I want to see what I could do if I got these vapor honed, if we could keep the factory finish. So my plan is to try to run them as is, just like this. I think this looks really cool, but I'm curious to see how this looks behind the work wheels bronze. The bronze and silver, I'm not sure how that's going to go together, but at this point I'm planning to run them as is because I think they look absolutely sick, and I haven't seen a whole lot of people do this. While I was getting these done, had the heat shield that goes underneath the car on the exhaust, vapor honed as well, and that looks absolutely beautiful. Just check this stuff out, you guys. And that brings us to some parts that need cleaning. So I talked about this in a previous video, but the transmission and diff are gonna get dry ice blasted by my friend Scott. These things are gonna look awesome when he's done with them. And then I've got these trim pieces that go by the gas tank. I'm gonna try to get these cleaned up here today. And if I can't get that overspray off and get them cleaned up to the point where I'm happy with them, those are gonna go to dry ice as well. But these are pretty dirty, and I wanna see if I can get them cleaned up and make them really shine before we put them back on the car. So I've got these trim pieces outside, and the first thing I'm gonna do is try to get all the dirt off of them. So I'm gonna put some cleaner on, let it sit, rinse them, get as much off as possible, and then go at it with a different cleaner and a rag, try to get as much off that way. And then hopefully the last thing we can do is use some mineral spirits to get off this overspray that seems to have been from when the car was painted. If not, I'm really hoping the dry ice can get that off. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to find some that are in good condition to buy for this car, but I'm confident that we can restore these. These things are significantly better than they were when we started. I would say we got them about 95% clean, but to get that last 5% of stuff, like there's just this weird kind of hardened buildup on there that you pretty much have to scrape away with a razor blade. So since I'm taking the transmission and diff to get dry ice blasted, I'm gonna have them just blast both of these to get that last 5% and make sure they're perfect before we put them on the car. Well, looks like I'll be taking those 2 trim pieces in with the other parts to get dry ice blasted this week. I should have everything back from powder coat by the end of the week, so we can really start moving on this, but it feels great to be back out in the garage. This truly is my happy place, and I know it sounds weird, but like, you know, I just wasn't feeling myself and couldn't bring myself to get out here, even though being out here helps me feel better. Just this weird kind of whole cycle. But I'm glad we got a chance to talk. It's good to be back behind the camera. I hope what I said earlier in this video about mental health is relatable to some of you or help some of you as you're working through some hard days, because we all deal with them. But in the next video, I've been working super hard behind the scenes on just a huge undertaking of an edit. That's the history of the S13. Talked about this car before I owned it, how I came to own it, and how that really just kind of feels like destiny that I ended up with this car. But that's in the next one. In the meantime, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button, throw this video a like, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.